Hello everyone, Tony here, rchelp.com, and in front of me I've got my Dynam E-Razor 450. It is the ready to fly version, and at the time all that was available was the FM version of it, and I don't much like FM. I don't like the antenna sticking up. It gets in the way of the camera when you're filming. It's too easy to bend. So what we're going to do is I actually got in my orange receiver for my Spektrum DX6i radio. This is a 6-channel receiver, and I'm going to put it on that helicopter, and we're going to go through and I'm going to show you everything that is involved in setting up the DX6i to get a helicopter in the air. Now this, I guess you could say that this could go towards, going from FM, if you have an FM receiver, to putting a DX6i in there. This will be the exact same setup if you had the AR6200, AR6110E, or AR6100, whatever receiver, as long as it's 6-channel. So I'm going to go ahead and get the radio out of the way because we're not going to need it anymore, and pull the receiver out. The receiver is located on this helicopter right in there. I'm just going to pull it out and show you what we got to do in order to switch this over. Okay, as you guys can see, I've got the receiver pulled out. All the wires are still connected to it except the gyro, because I actually have the gyro sitting right here. Now this is the GY192. This is what came on it, and this is what I'm going to be putting back on it whenever I get ready to make this thing fly. The only tool we need right now is this right here, and the only reason we need it is to cut this gaudy FM antenna off of this helicopter. So once you get that off of there, what you need to do is just unplug all of these. What you can do is you can go in to your manual and it will tell you what each one of these are. I'm just going to go ahead and unplug them and just start from scratch, just like that. Now we've got the receiver out of there, and we can toss the receiver back there with the crap radio. I say crap radio. They work fine. If that's what you're used to, use them. It doesn't matter. But for me, there is just no beating my DX6i. I love this radio, and I especially love the little bitty antenna and the extended range. I've heard people say that 75 megahertz, 72 megahertz FM will go a longer distance than the 2.4 gigahertz will. Maybe. I haven't actually done the testing myself, and I haven't read anything, so I can't say either way. So, alright, now that we've got all that off, now we need to take our receiver and get it out of the package. As you can see, it's got everything on there that you would need: auxiliary, gear, rudder, elevator, aileron, throttle, and then your battery or your bind port. We will not use the battery port. We will use it to bind it, and they do come. Each receiver, I ordered 3 of them. Each one came with its own bind plug. Bind plugs are not specific to each receiver. All it is a jumper wire between the negative and the signal. That's it. That's all it does. So what we need to do now is get the canopy off and find out which wire goes where. Okay, the first thing we need to do is actually set up our radio. We need to go in and we need to make a model for the E-Razor 450. So the first thing you need to do, turn your radio on. And you can see I've got it on my little MCP, the greatest helicopter ever made, I think. Takes crashes real well, but I was able to give it a crash that it didn't like. So what you need to do, go into your menu, go into Model Select, scroll down. We're going to go on to Model 7, go in there, and you're going to download. Alright, now, next thing you need to do, scroll all the way through, go to Setup List, go to Model Type, switch that to Helicopter. Alright, now once your little deal goes up to lift, go ahead, push that, and go down to Model Name. Now, because I've actually got other open models, I don't want to get them confused. So right now is the perfect time to go ahead and do this. So we'll just scroll through and put the name in. Okay, now that we've got the E-Razor name put in, select OK, go back up, go to lift. Now we need to go down to swash type. Right now it's on one servo 90 degrees. We want it on CCPM 120 degrees. Set that, hit lift. Throttle cut we're not going to worry about right now, not going to worry about that. The timer is at 6 minutes. I know for a fact this helicopter with a 2200 milliamp battery will fly over 10 minutes. So none of this really pertains. So hit adjust list, that'll bring you back up to here. We will be going in and doing some dual rate in Expo. I went a little bit more in depth on that on some other videos. Travel adjustment we'll do later, sub trim do later, gyro, all this we'll do later. Swash mix, I'm going to show you guys how to use the swash mix to actually reverse some of your settings. So now that we've got the helicopter set up, go back up to main. You can see I am on the E-Razor. Now the next step is find your wire coming from your speed control, and we'll go ahead and plug it in to the receiver. Okay, now that we've got the canopy off and we got access to all the wires, our old receiver's removed, we have our new receiver. Now what we need to do is we need to trace the wire from the speed control, trace it all the way back to the plug. Take this plug. On these receivers, the side with the label is the side that your signal wire is going to go on. Signal wire is going to be orange, white, a light color. It's going to be lighter than the other ones. Red is always in the middle, always. That way, if you actually plug it in backwards, the actual power wire will always be in the center. It keeps you from shorting these things out, is what it does. The dark colored ones are always going to be your ground. The worst thing that can happen is, you know, kind of like the bind plug. Your bind plug, all it is it jumps the negative and the signal. That's, you know, that's how it binds. What you need to do with the signal wire facing towards your label, plug it in on the Spektrum radios. The throttle will go in right next to your bind port. Makes it real easy. Now, why are we hooking the throttle up? This is why. What we're going to do, I've got my 1000 milliamp 3S LiPo. You don't need a big one because we're not putting any power to it as far as running the motor. All we're doing is we're going to bind this with the radio back here. So now that we've got that in, the motor is hooked up, but it will not spin without input from this radio. What we need to do now is take the bind plug and plug it in to the battery port or the bind port, and then plug in the battery. Now you don't have to worry about the motor, it's not going to spin up. Plug it in, make sure your radio is off when you do this. The light will start flashing like that. Now what we need to do is we need to move that over to where you guys can see it. The trainer switch, which is right here, we need to hold up on the trainer, and then when you're holding that, you need to turn it on. And you will see whenever we turn it on, you will see down here on the screen it'll say bind. And watch the light. See how it says bind? The light starts flashing slower. It'll go out and then come back on solid. You hear the motor beep, let go of your trainer switch, and you're all bound up. Now I was actually really close to that receiver when I did the bind process. You need to be at least 3 feet away from your radio to your receiver. You need to be at least 3 feet away from it to get a proper bind. As you can see, my light's on, my radio's on. Now, just grab a hold of your bind plug, unplug it, it's still lit up. Everything is cool. Now, what we want to do is go ahead and plug in the gyro. I've got to get some tape and mount this gyro. That way I've got everything mounted up, and then we'll continue on. Okay, we know that the gyro also controls the rudder, so the main gyro is going to go in to the rudder channel. Make sure your signal wire is facing up. Plug that in, and you can see it's actually red right now. It will turn blue whenever it actually initializes. The single wire goes to the gear, which is channel 5, and it goes in the same place that the signal wire goes, which is in the very top. So if you just look down in there, if you only have a little single plug like this, just go ahead and plug it right in. Now you can see my light's blue, everything's working great. Now what I need is I need my rudder. So we just trace it out. We know that it's that one right there, which isn't looking too hot. And on here, on the GY192s, take away this wire. On the bottom you got signal, positive, and then on the top you got brown. Yes, you mount these upside down. Whenever you plug your rudder in, you want it the exact same way. You want the ground on top. Plug it in. We now have a rudder channel. Alright, now we've got 2 of the wires. We've only got 3 servos that we have to worry about. Okay, now that we've got the rudder put in, and it is still hooked up, what we need to do is we need to figure out, what are these servos going to? The first way you can figure that out is the one that is right center with in line with the tail boom. That is always going to be your elevator. I think it's on Futaba, it's actually a little bit different. And on these, the elevator is actually in front. If you're using this on an EXI or a Hobby King or something like that, it's actually going to be in back on this pin here. This actually broke off and I had to put a bolt in there. Just cheap aluminum. But this is the elevator, and it doesn't matter which one of these is pitch and which one is aileron. If it's backwards, I'll show you how to set that up. The first thing we need to do is we need to trace this wire from the elevator. We know this is the elevator, and we're going to go ahead and trace it all the way down. Get the receiver, if I can feed the wire correctly. Signal wire up, and then on here we're going to find elevator, and we're going to plug it in. Alright, now we have elevator movement. Before we go any further, because these other 2 are still on hook, we're still able to keep these blades laying back. We need to get this blade holder off and get the blades out. The proper way to do this is actually take the blades off. Safety first. I'm not going to do that. It's just me. Okay. Got my blades extended out. See? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace this top servo, which goes to this link over here. Trace it, find out which wire it goes to. This one can go to pitch or to the aileron. I'm going to put this one in the aileron. Now there's not actually a port called pitch. It's actually your auxiliary 1 port on the 6-channel helicopters. As you can see, we got movement there, we got movement there. Alright, everything is looking great. Now we should only have one more plug buried way back up in there. Grab it, and we'll plug that into our auxiliary 1 port. Alright, now, right there, left, right, that's backwards. Push left, this should tilt to the left. Tilt that way. But it's going to the right. Tilt forward, it's actually tilting backwards. Everything is backwards, but more importantly, I'll swing this thing around here for you. Look at the angle of all my servo arms. The servo arms are as far off as they could possibly be. What you want to do is you want to set these arms up to where the arms are going just like this, and the linkages are going just like this. This should be a 90-degree angle. If your servos are sitting on an angle, it doesn't matter. Make sure from this linkage to the horn is 90 degrees. I'm going to take these servo arms off, take that little screw out, pull them off, and center these as much as I can. Because we made a brand new model, everything is centered. Everything is set at 0. So this is the perfect time to do this. I'm going to go ahead, set these at as close to center as I can, and then I'll be right back. Okay, as you can see, this arm here, it looks pretty good. We're going to give it a little bit of an adjustment. This side just a little bit low. As you can see, basically you can go from that screw there to the screw over here line it up with this, that's going to be a straight line, and this arm on this helicopter should be directly in line with it. So what we're going to do is get our radio, and we're going to set the sub trims to make that arm level. Okay, as you can see, we've got our radio here. We'll go in here, scroll down to sub trim, and we know that that is either the pitch or it's the aileron. So what we're going to do is we're just going to scroll to aileron, because it's the first one to get to, and test it. That is not it. Aileron is going to be on the left side when looking at it from the tail. Now we know that it's on the pitch. So we will adjust that. I'll move this out of the way so you can see this. We'll just move it, and as you can see, it moves that arm up and down to wherever you want it. I think right about there looks good, which is actually down on the radio. See right here, it's showing down 39. That's going to put that at the perfect level. I'm going to do that for all 3 of these servos, and then I'll be back. Okay, I've got all my arms level, but as you can see, according to this right here to your swash plate, this is not level. On the 450s, I don't worry about actually getting the tool to set it up. You can, and it will be absolutely perfect when you go to fly. But what we need to do is we need to adjust these links. You've already centered all your servos. You don't want to mess that up. So we can take this link and go shorter, or we can take this link over here and go longer. Judging by the amount of threads, I am going to go a little bit shorter. You just pop it off and always go. I always go one full turn at a time. That's going to let me know exactly how far I'm going. Set it on there, look at it, need to go a little bit further. Another full turn. Check it, a little bit further. And you just keep doing that until you get that swash plate nice and level. Okay, now that we've got the swash plate all nice and level, we need to go ahead and do the rudder. As you can see, my rudder's way off. Why is that? Well, actually, as you can see, it moves by itself. My hands ain't on it. That's because this is a head holding gyro. It will keep putting more and more input into the tail servo until that tail moves back into the position it was in originally. So I mean, right now it's at full pitch. I'm surprised the servo isn't sitting there making noise saying, hey, something's wrong here. What we need to do is we need to unplug the plug from the gyro and plug it directly into the receiver. Now on other gyros, you can actually flip it into rate mode, and it'll center itself, and you don't have to do all this. Okay, now that we've got the gyro unplugged, we've got the tail servo plugged directly in, you can see that tail servo, the arm, is almost exactly 90 degrees. Now it'll go left or right, and it'll go left. Surprisingly, that is the only servo on this entire helicopter that doesn't need to be reversed. So, are we right at the edge of our travels? This one does not have a travel adjustment. All it has, see if I can get a good picture on it for you guys. All it has is a gain knob and then a light. It has no travel adjustment. It doesn't have anything. So, now that I know, the endpoints are, they're okay. Could use a little bit. You just go into your endpoint or travel adjustments and adjust where you don't want it to bind up real bad. You want it to go all the way to the edge of the travel, but not bind up. Do that, and then plug your gyro back in, and you're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, as you can see, I've got my gyro mounted to the helicopter where it goes, upside down, label facing back. I just happen to know that about this particular gyro. Don't worry about all these wires. These will be cleaned up. This would drive me insane. The next thing we need to do is, if you remember, everything was backwards except this one servo. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to reverse all your swash settings the easy way. Very easy way. Okay, we're set up with the look from behind the helicopter. That way you can see, if I push up on the stick, you can see that the swash plate is going back. If I go right, you can see that it's going left. Everything about this is backwards. I have my throttle hold on, remember that, but you can also unplug your motor. It just happens on this particular helicopter, it is extremely hard to plug and unplug the motor. So I use a throttle hold on this helicopter only. But as you can see, pitch up, it goes down. Pitch down, it goes up. That's wrong. Like I said, everything is backwards. So what we need to do to reverse all of these settings, that should go back, that should go right, this should go up. What we need to do is go in on your first screen, go into Swash Mix. Now, all of your stuff is going to be sitting at positive 60. As you can see right there, all of mine are at positive 60%. So we know that our actual elevator, which is forward and back, is backwards. So we will go into here and we will take that from positive 60 all the way down to negative 60. Now, forward is forward, back is back. Alright, great. That's still backwards, okay? That's going to be your aileron. Same thing, go from positive 60 to negative 60. Now, left is left, right is right, forward is forward, back is back. That's still backwards. Alright, so we go down here to pitch. Same thing. Take it all the way to negative 60, or the reverse of whatever it was. Now, as you can see, that's all the way down, but it goes up. That is the easy way to reverse all of these settings. Okay, now that we've got everything level, we know everything's set up correctly, we need to grab our little pitch gauge. Now, when you're looking at this, what you want to do, first start out and put your pitch gauge right on 0. These things are only a couple bucks, guys, and it is a must-have for any collective pitch helicopter. I've got it at 0. I've got my radio sitting at mid-stick, in idle up. Unplug your motor. I can't stress that enough. As you can see, the flybar is not quite level with my pitch gauge. My swash plate is actually just a little too low. The way that you adjust this is you actually take, because mine's low, I've got to extend all of my little rods. I don't want to mess with the sub trims. What you want is when you go full pitch, full up, you want, say, 10 degrees all the way down, 10 degrees, you want it sitting right in the middle. Can you adjust it out with the radio? Yes, you can. I don't recommend it. I'd rather you set it up correctly on the head. So what I'm going to do is extend all of these, and then we'll get right back to setting up the pitch. Okay, now that we've got everything centered up, as you can see, I am sitting at mid-stick and I have 0 pitch. Now what you want to do is you want to check full travel. So let's say I want 11 degrees of pitch. Okay, we'll go all the way up. Right there is about your 11 degrees of positive pitch. Now we'll move that all the way down, move the stick all the way down, and you can see that it's right at about 11 degrees. It's virtually the same on both positive and negative pitch. And if I hold the fly bar, you can actually see the blades right there pitching. Alright, so we've got our pitch set up. So let's go in to the radio and let's set up throttle and pitch curves. Okay, now that we've got our pitch set up on the helicopter, we need to go ahead and go in and actually set the curves up. So you go into here, go all the way down to throttle curves, and this is going to be your actual stick movement. You can see that little dial move as I move the throttle stick up and down. So you can see that I'm in normal mode. If I flip it into idle up, the arrow will go to stunt, and then no matter what mode I'm in, if I flip the throttle hold, it'll go straight to hold. It doesn't matter if I flip the idle up switch or not. But right now, we're going to stay in normal. Select it. Some people, they actually will say to basically start 0, 40, 60, 80, and 100. I don't like that big of a jump right off the beginning. You know, whenever you first move in that stick, I don't know, it just looks really, really bad. So what I do is I keep it just like this. I keep it very linear. 0, 25, 50, 75, 100. So now that that's all set up, we'll go out of that, go down here to stunt mode. Now stunt, whenever you're at mid stick, you're going to have your lowest throttle. You can set this to 100 all the way across the board, but here's the way I do it. Low, I want at 100%. Position number 2, I want at 100%. Position number 3, though, I want at 80%. Position number 4, I want it 100%. And position number 5 at 100%. Now, why do I have 100, 100, 80, 100, 100? The reason is, as you're moving the stick, when you are at mid-stick, you're at 80% throttle. You don't have those blades spinning as fast as they can possibly spin. But once you start moving that stick, the throttle goes up. If you're doing real hard moves, you know, you're always at full stick somewhere, it's giving that motor 100% power. Now you can bring this up to 85, 90, you can bring it up to 100% if you wanted to. I don't like to, but that's just me. Alright, now that we've got that, and my throttle hold, I keep at 0 across the board. That way, if anything happens, it doesn't matter if I'm in stun or normal, I can just flip that throttle hold switch and it'll kill the throttle. You know, if I know I'm on a crash, it could save a motor, it could save a gear, it could save, you know, more parts. So what we need to do, go ahead and back out of that and go into your pitch curves. Now, for normal mode, the pitch curves, some people want you to start out at about 30, and then 40, and then 50, and then it's linear from there, 7,500. I don't want to do that. I set mine low position in normal mode. I set mine at 45%. Position number 2, I will set it at 47.5%. Position 3, 50, 4, 75, and then position H or position 5 is 100%. Why do I do that? It's because no matter where you're at, if you're at low stick, you're only putting very, very small amount of negative pitch into those blades when you're in normal mode. That way, if somebody chops the throttle, it doesn't just slam that helicopter into the ground. That's, if you really want to go inverter to do something like that, you really need to be in stunt mode anyway. Okay, so we've got all that set up. Now let's go into stunt mode. Stunt mode is just like the normal throttle mode. It is very, very linear. You got 0, 25, 50. 50% is going to be 0 pitch. That at position low or position 1, that's going to be full negative pitch. Position H or position 5 is going to be full positive pitch. So as you can see, we got low, move the stick up, there's mid stick, no pitch, and then right there's full pitch. Now on throttle hold, it is actually linear, just like your stunt mode. Most of the times whenever you're in stunt mode, if you're experienced enough to use stunt mode or idle up, you know when to kill the throttle. And if you can't get to the little switch, you can always get to that big switch on the back. So what I leave it set at is a linear pitch curve. That way, no matter which direction I'm flying, if I'm inverted, if I'm upright, whatever, my pitch curve is going to be the exact same in stunt mode or in throttle hold that it is in stunt mode. That's the way I set mine up. Now that we got all that set up, let's move on. Okay, so why did we just do all that? Well, the answer is actually really simple. Now, when you're in normal mode, throttle hold off, zero pitch, this isn't going to move. From there, it's not going to move very much. From there to mid-stick, it's just barely going to move. But from mid-stick up, you're going to get full pitch. Now, if we are at mid-stick and we flip it into idle up, not really going to move a whole lot, but now the swash will go way back down. If I leave it all the way down and go between idle up and normal, you'll see. That's basically the entire difference between idle up and normal mode, except for in motor RPM. So, keep it in idle up, you can see the full range of travel. Then, if we actually take it off of that, put the stick all the way back down, and hit throttle hold, just like I showed you before, it's got the full range. That way, if you're in idle up and you hit throttle hold, you still have all your stick input. Now, if you remember, whenever we set all this up in normal mode, we set it up, the pitch curve, 45, 47.5, and then 50. And that's why. I don't want a lot of negative pitch whenever I'm landing my helicopter or when it's just starting up. Now, negative pitch is good to keep it on the ground and keep it from spinning. But guys, I don't like a lot of it. This is how I set my helicopters up, and I've had really good success in doing so. Next step in the process is I'm going to clean these wires up before I have a conniption, because they are driving me crazy. I will clean these up and then I'll be back. Alright, got all the wiring cleaned up. Looks fairly decent. On your wires for your gyro, you can twist them like this, and I actually suggest doing that on the gyro side and over here on the servo side, because you don't want anything pulling against this gyro. If it's pulling and there's tension, then all the vibration will come up through those wires into the gyro. That is why you can see on the base right there, I've actually got 2 layers of foam. It doesn't look like it's pressed down very good. Trust me, it is. My receiver, I've got tucked right up in there. That is the orange Spektrum DSM2 receiver. So far, they seem to be working really good. I've got them on some planes. I've got the wire coiled up there. It actually put another coil in it. I need to replace this servo, and here's why. You can see the wire right there coming out. Then the wire there, if it'll ever focus, going down into there. The biggest thing is when you're looking up in there, you want to make sure that it is clear of that main gear. You don't want anything getting in the main gear. Over here on the other side, you want to make sure none of these wires are going to rub against the motor. And I know mine's not. This one right here may get into it, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put another zip tie right down here, and I'm going to zip tie that baby right there. Actually, I'm going to put a twist like that in it. That way it's coming out away from the motor. So, you guys can see I did unplug my motor. There's your proof. So, the next thing up is we got to set up that gyro and get everything ready for it. And then we get to go outside. Okay, now that we've got all the wires nice and clean, we got all the servos hooked up, they're moving correctly, we got the endpoints adjusted on the cyclic servos, we got the endpoints adjusted on the collective as far as the pitch, we got endpoints adjusted on the tail. What we need to do now is set up the gyro. So, on my helicopter, what I do with the GY192 gyro, set the gain right in the middle. the gain really doesn't do anything on the gyro itself. Everything is done through the radio. Now I know you guys are looking at my screen right here going 4.8 volts. Wow, does all those lights that you got in there really pull that much? Guys, I've had this radio on for over 2 hours continuously, and that's all the power that it's drawn. So what you'll do, go in here, we'll scroll down to gyro, click on it. That is where I set mine up to start out with. 70 on head hold. Anything above 50 to 100 is head holding mode. 50 to 0 is rate mode. Now 50, consider that neutral. Basically your tail's not going to do jack except sit there. Wherever you got it trimmed out at, that's where it's going to stay. The further you get away from 50, the more that servo is going to act, the more it's going to react to movement. So if you got it set at 100, you're going to get some wicked tail shake. If you've got it set at 70 like I do here, I'm probably going to get some tail wag out of it, but it's not going to be severe. I'm going to be able to back it off and try again. So set it just like that, 70 head hold mode, 30 rate mode. That is both of those are 20% away from 50. So that's where I set mine. Be sure on that you have this set to gyro, not F mode, because if you have it set to F mode, you actually have to change. You have to go into stunt mode in order for it to change. You can hear the servos moving right there. I don't like it right there. Some of you guys might. You know, hey, that's great. Don't set it on inhibit either. That'll turn it off. Put it on gyro. That's also going to be the flap switch. It's easy to get to. It's just to the right of your elevator dual rate. Once we get all that done, speaking of elevator dual rate, let's go in and let's set up dual rates and Expo. Okay, to set up dual rates and Expo, go into your menu, second one down, dual rate and Expo. Go in there. As you can see, everything is at 100% with no Expo. 100% travel, no Expo. If I change the aileron, the switch, you'll see it'll go to 1 and then back to 0. I want to go ahead and set at 0, leave them at 100%, but I want to put positive 30% Expo into the radio. Now why am I putting positive? Because positive is actually going to slow it down as you start to move the stick. With it at 30% positive Expo, basically this movement right here is not going to be near as touchy as it would be at 0 Expo. It makes it a lot easier to fly. Okay, now that I've got 30% Expo put into the aileron, I want to go ahead and go down, and I want to go and put 30% in the elevator and in the rudder. Some people don't put Expo in their rudder. I do. It just makes it just a little bit easier to fly. If you put too much Expo in it, though, you're going to have to end up putting, you know, half stick movements into it to get the helicopter to move. So just use your best judgment. You're going to have to play with it. These are just initial settings. 100% travel, 30% Expo. Now also, if you wanted to, let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and flip every one of these to where they're on 1. You can see we want to put 30% Expo on this too, but you could also dial down the dual rate. Basically, dual rate is going to limit the travel. If you set it at 70%, you've got your travel adjustment set, and the dual rate, if you set it at 70%, is only going to travel 70% of what you have your travel adjustment set at. So just go in here, and I'll go ahead and set all these up, and then come back. Okay, now that we've got all that done, I'm going to show you another little trick. As you can see, I'm having to flip each and every one of those in order to change the Expo and the dual rate. There's another way to do it to where you only got to flip one switch. For me, the aileron switch is the easiest one to flip. Scroll all the way down to setup list. We'll go in here to DR combo or combination. it's going to ask you, dual rate switch. What switch do you want this on? Do you want it aileron, elevator, or the rudder? Or FM? I don't use that one because I just don't use that one. I like it on the aileron. Like I said, it's extremely easy to get to. We'll set it there. We'll go back. Go into here. Now, by flipping this one aileron switch, it changes every one of them at the same time. I like it that way. Some of you may not. Completely up to you guys. But that's the way I do it. Alright, as you guys can see, come outside. Need to set up the gyro and all the trims. We got it close on the swash by eye, but now it's time to do the final settings. Now the only tool that I need to do the gyro, which obviously we got to adjust the gain. We do that on the controller, and we adjust the trims on the controller, but we do not adjust the trim on the gyro or on the tail servo. Instead, we use a little bitty screwdriver. So let's get her on up in the air and see how she handles. Now, I haven't flown this in probably close to 8 months. Okay, I'm having to hold some left rudder and some right cyclic. So, left rudder means I need to go down there and actually move the tail servo just a hair. But having to hold a little bit of right, we'll just do that on the radio. Go 5 clicks. Alright, slid the tail servo back about 1.5 millimeters. Not too much. Basically, you just hold your stick where you were holding it when you were flying it, and then whenever you let go, find out what the difference was and move your servo about that much. Alright, try it again. Okay, put a little back cyclic in it, and we're going to give it just a little bit more right. Not a whole lot, because I do have a wind that's going from right to left. But I need to go make another tail servo adjustment. Okay, because of the wind, I'm having to do a voiceover on this. Basically what I'm doing is I'm giving it a little bit more right cyclic, and I'm also upping the gain from 70 to 75 on the gyro. So I do apologize about the wind. Let's get back to some flying. Here we go, round 3. Alright, we're getting closer on that tail. I'm going to go ahead and move the gyro gain up just a little bit more to 78.5. Now I'll go ahead and take it to 80. Make another adjustment. Be right back. Alright. Round 4.
Oh, dug some dirt with the tail. Okay, I'm going to do something that I always say not to do. I'm going to try doing a little bit of adjusting. I'm also going to go up on my gain. I'm going to go up to 85. But I'm also going to use my sub trim to see if I can fix that rudder. Just a test. Round, hell, I forgot what round it is. Almost tipped it over right there. Wind gust come along, kind of took it. Not quite. I'm going to move that over a lot and see what happens. That's it right there. I have no rudder input. Actually, I think it needs to go a little bit to the right now. See if I can get away from that pole. Got the tail pretty solid. Well, the wind's pushing me all around. Alright, that's pretty successful except for a couple tail blade strikes. I am running an 1800 milliamp 3S battery, and because I'm running that battery, it's a little bit lighter than it should be on the nose, so it's just a hair tail heavy. But I got that tail holding rock solid. I need to back off the gain just a little bit, because if you do a kind of a quick movement, you can see a little shudder in it. But that looked great. Alright, well, that was a pretty successful first test for this little helicopter. Like I said, I haven't flown this thing in quite a long time. I didn't know exactly what to expect with that gyro, because, you know, last time I flew it, you know, I was still really green to all this. Had one wind gust that just come out of nowhere. It basically picked the helicopter up, took it to the left, banked it real good, and whenever I recovered, the wind come back around the other side of the house and it banked it back the other way. And with the way the wind was swirling right there, I just went ahead and set it down and then brought it back over. You guys saw in the video, if you looked real close, I did have a couple little blade strikes with the tail blades in the grass, and then you might have heard them hit the concrete. I'm using a really small battery. I'm using that 1800 milliamp battery.
and not the 2200. So, you know, little underpowered. The climb outs weren't nothing, but I think that mostly has to do with the actual servos. I bet you if I put some MG90S servos on this thing, it will be just absolutely golden. So, guys, I hope that helps you get your helicopter set up. If you've got an FM and you want to get a DX6i, this is the exact process to set one of these helicopters up. Please leave me a comment and let me know what you think about this video and anything in general. If you have any questions, just let me know and I'll answer them. So, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.